Amber Island is a complete bop, as you can see. I'm bopping over here. So I say we bop on over into our top 5 monsters that I would like to see come onto Amber Island, which all appear to be falling from the sky. Hey guys, I need some screen room. At number 5, we have Wallaby, my favourite fire elemental that I am most excited to see come across onto Amber Island. For Wallaby, we definitely are going to be seeing a lot more percussion come into the Amber Island song, and that's why it has made it onto my list, my favourite monster. We have a ton of vocalists right now, including Flumox and Kana and so forth, and whilst we do have Zigurab and Stog, I definitely feel like the song still needs that instrumental backing and that bit more percussion, and I think Wallaby is definitely one of those monsters that will provide it. Across all of the islands that they are on, they play pretty much through the entire duration of the song, and the islands that they are on, including Cloud and Oasis, just wouldn't be the same without Wallaby, and I think the same is going to go for Amber Island. So seeing Wallaby come along will be a huge momentous occasion, and not only that, it will mark them being on a dark-themed island for the first time, perhaps meaning we might see a little bit more of a darker side to Wallaby. Ooh, very interesting indeed. I think that animation will end up being a lot more experimental too. Inside of the spin wheel, it always makes me think, what if Wallaby's birds just went off of Wallaby for a little bit? And if we saw that on Amber Island, I think that would be a really cool moment. At number 4, we have Repetillo. Yet again, Repetillo is going to add a huge amount of percussion into the song. Across every single island that Repetillo is on, they add a bunch to it, and it just wouldn't feel the same, just like to Wallaby, if Repetillo wasn't on the island. So the same is going to go 100% for Amber Island too. Where Stog does play inside of Amber Island right now, I think a really cool flip towards Firehaven, where Repetillo is currently found inside of the game, would be to actually place Repetillo in the bit where Stog doesn't play, as that feels a bit bare bones at the moment, and I can see Repetillo being a really cool alternation into Stog's part, and making that balance just feel just so right if Repetillo did play there. Them not playing with Stog, I feel like would be a chance for them to do something new too, and perhaps duet with other monsters on the island, including Flugel and Zigurab, which would be a really nice addition. I think Repetillo would make the song pop a lot more, and therefore I'm very excited to see it, and yes, it always adds a lot. So just bring on Repetillo, everyone. At number 3, we have Snizer. Snizer is going to provide a much needed castle bass. The bass is a huge momentous part to the island, and at the moment, as not getting any sound from the castle is definitely hinting towards Snizer's inclusion when they eventually do come. They are very much needed, and I feel like an island without a bass is absolutely absurd, and seeing it in game right now is therefore an absolutely crazy thing to witness. It's going to flesh out the song a lot more. The castle bass is always so important, and seeing as though the bass is always different across the islands, it's really got me thinking what Snizer is going to sound like this time across the different islands that Snizer's on, in comparison to Dawn of Fire and Fire Oasis, for example. Their sounds are completely different, so seeing what Snizer's going to sound like will definitely be a very cool thing to see, and it's one of those monsters that I feel we don't really know what it's going to sound like until it does come on over. So I like to Stog and how their sound has changed a little bit when it came on over to Amber Island. I think its sound is going to change in some ways, and I think that would be really cool to witness. Something that I've been thinking about a lot for when Snizer does make their return is that they could really make its animation a lot more playful. On Fire Oasis, yes, it is very playful and happy, but I feel like they could take that one step further on Amber Island and get more experimental. It has a huge new redesign in the My Singing Monsters game, and to see them really take advantage of that, I think would be really cool. So therefore, My Singing Monsters, get on it. We're all waiting to see that cool new animation. At number 2, we have Dromedary. I feel like you guys all saw this coming. I'm really in love with the Quints, and I think Dromedary would provide a huge amount of beat and backing to the song. It's one of those monsters where I feel like its sound direction is really hard to work out. We went over how Snizer's sound direction could be quite hard to figure out, but this one, I am lost for words as towards what this could sound like in the original game. What Dromedary could sound like in the original game is a topic that I don't think anyone can really answer until it does come along. I just find it really intriguing what it could sound like. While yes, we all know how Dromedary bangs its drums and what its wonderful sound sounds like over on Cloud Island, I think carrying that over into the original game is a concept that might be a little bit harder, potentially, than what other instrumentalist tracks could be. I might be a bit mistaken on that front, but I definitely think this is one of those that's very hard to interpret. And not only that, but I think its animation will be very interesting over on Amber Island. They've only been able to experiment with them once, with that being on on Cloud Island, so getting to see them again and see what they do with them this time, I think will be a really interesting thing. Before moving on to our number 1 spot though, I wanted to bring a bit of spotlight on monsters that we aren't going to be mentioning today. Well, yes, I am excited for every single monster to come on over to Amber Island. Some honourable mentions include Tiawa, Intersaur, and Bicinerus. One that I've seen in the comments quite a lot alongside Tiawa, so I know that those two are definitely ones that I couldn't resist just bringing up before our number 1 reveal. So then, at number 1, we have Candelabra. Candelabra is one that I am just so excited for. To see how their sound is revived inside of the original game, their vocals is going to be tremendously exciting. I feel like Candelabra would deliver a huge amount to the beat pop, as we're dubbing it, the wonderful verse with Flumox in at the moment. Candelabra is one of those monsters that could really rally that sound up, especially with Krillby in there right now. Them duetting alongside Krillby with their wonderful harmonies would bring out a crisp, wonderful sound to that beat pop that we just also ever dearly need. And just like to Enchantlin, this is one of those vocals that could completely change the song. So therefore it has to be at my number 1 spot. It's the first Quint Elemental that we ever received too, so it's going to be a really momentous thing inside of the game, and it's just a full package. We've got the cool animation that's going to come, the design, the sound. It's a tall goddess-like monster. What more do you want? Candelabra is definitely the one that is most likeliest to add the most to the song, and therefore is the one that I think deserves the number 1 spot. And whilst yes, Candelabra is 100% at my number 1 spot, I do have one concern for Candelabra though, and that is if she will go underused. For Candelabra, their harmonies and everything that they could bring about for Amber Island, and just its theme, its setting, and just everything that the Amber Island song is setting out to be, if Candelabra goes unused, I feel like it would be an absolute tragedy. Just them being inside of the beat pop overall, I feel like would potentially be a worthwhile enough contribution, but going that one step further and adding Candelabra in other places would go a huge way. So hopefully they do make sure to use the most that they can out of Candelabra, as otherwise I do see it being a bit of a missed opportunity. Candelabra is one of those that monster handlers you just have to use. I'm really excited to see how it goes about being used, and therefore it is at my number 1 spot today. What Amber Island monsters do you have in your top 5 list? Definitely let me know down below. But now though guys, make sure to leave a like and to subscribe down below if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys later though for now. Bye!